No, this is the part of the year where it's the non-contact injuries that come to the timeline.
It's the worst.
No. CJGJ avoided the worst. Jalen Ramsey apparently had to get carted off from Miami Dolphins practice a little earlier today. Nothing breaking from there, but that does not sound good anytime you got to call the card out. And Jon Jansen, you have another one, and this is going to shock the system.
Yeah, this is certainly something to watch for. Joe Burrow went down on the field. I think he was participating in whatever drill. He went down. Medical staff went out there. It seemed like he was holding his right calf, and he was carted off.
Not good. Not good, and that sucks, but who knows?
It's just it's always the worst, just how frequent these injuries in the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
When training camp starts, and the players dropping left and right. It's always the worst thing about training camp.
No doubt about that. All right, let's head out to the Gambler Hotline. Very excited to have this gentleman join us here. Daily ticket debut, but not a gambler debut because he was on with Mark Henry Jr. in the All-Pro Philly show. The Tough Cover show a few weeks ago. Excited to have Shamus Clancy, who is the deputy sports editor over at PhillyVoice.com. Does a tremendous job and has a great post on the Philadelphia Eagles core four guys that have been here on the roster for close to a decade, a little over a decade for all of them. In fact, Lane was probably about 10 years as he was drafted in 2013. Anyways, Shamus, great to have you. Sean, Brace, Jon Jansen. And I know you guys are going to talk movies, but I want to talk
just whenever, Sean, you want me to hijack the interview so I can just ask Barbenheimer questions?
I want to talk some birds with you first. Is that all right?
I guess it's fair.
Absolutely.
Nice, dude. Nice to have you. Let's just get the vibe, man. As we know, it's training camp. It's exciting, and you're down there covering the team. I know you're a diehard. You still are. We're always going to be diehard fans, but we got to be the big Jays, right? But it's still got to be incredible that you're covering the Philadelphia Eagles. You're at NovaCare Complex, and you're chopping it up with Fletcher Cox and Lane Johnson, guys that have been here forever. Just take us inside the scenes down there at NovaCare Complex.
Sure. This is my second summer covering the team in training camp. Last year was my first. The energy there, you would think it's all business, right? No one's getting too excited over anything that's happening in practice. Yesterday's practice, pretty sloppy, but that's to be expected. Hurts looked okay. That's all you could really ask for. My rule of thumb for training camp whenever I'd ask someone is, if you think the quarterback played okay, that's fine. You can get excited about it. If you think he played poorly, it's fine. It doesn't matter. It's just training camp. It's a little sloppy. Mariota had a couple interceptions. Christian Ellis, a linebacker. I really think he's going to steal the number 2 linebacker job. Undrafted guy, only played special teams really last year. I think he played 62% of the special team snap. Guy was the player of the week, player of the session in OTAs. Only the media was only able to see 2 OTAs practices back in June, but he shined in both of them. And the vibe there, though, it's business as usual, right? Their goal isn't to win the division. Their goal isn't to have a first-round bye. Their goal isn't to just make the Super Bowl. Their goal is to win the whole thing. And Nick Sirianni plays cool with the media. He always does say, hey, our goal is just to get better. Our goal is not to win the Super Bowl. But do you really think that's what their goal is? Their goal is to just be a little bit better than every day. And I get you can say that, and that's the attitude you want to carry with himself. I know that's how Jalen Hurts handles himself. But ultimately, it's parade or bust.
Yeah, put that on a T-shirt. And look, goosebumps, man, right now. Just Super Bowl. Exactly. It's unfinished business. We were talking a couple of days ago, just, kicking around some thoughts from last season. And honestly, last year was just a complete blank for me because all I could think about is just what took place in the playoffs and the Super Bowl and just shut it down in the third quarter because that fourth quarter never happened. Second half never happened. But it was an unbelievable season. It's going to be tough to top. But as you said, it's a parade or a bust. I want to dive into Jalen Hurts and when you're out there and you're asking him those questions and he is just straight business and the sound bites are exceptional as always, just a true leader, thick and thin. And I'm so excited about the future for this organization. Simply, I know Howie Roseman's been dynamic over the years, earned every bit of respect over the years with the drafts and the trades and so on and so forth. But Jalen Hurts just makes me want to run through a wall. And I have a feeling that like nothing is going to be, swept underneath the rug, or everybody is just looking at him as that is the guy, right? It's got to be that way from afar. That's the way I'm seeing it. Whether you're a special teams, whether you're a coach, defensive, a backup linebacker, it's not just the fact that he is the quarterback on the offense side of the ball. Jalen Hurts comes off to me as just the leader of this organization, top to bottom. Is that true in your mind?
Oh, unquestionably. I think back to just 2 years ago when a large portion of the city, I'm talking fans, I'm talking media members, I'm talking your local bartender, were not sold on this guy in the slightest, wanted to trade for Deshaun Watson, Russell Wilson, Keith Wentz, all of those things. And even then, he carried himself like he was the face of the franchise. And I talked to people who weren't believers in his game, but they still said, from the shoulders up, he is absolutely, without a doubt, the perfect player, the perfect quarterback, the perfect leader, the perfect face of your franchise. And we fast forward 2 years later, improves a little bit in 2021, his first year as the full-time starter. Unbelievable rushing effort. They have a historically great rushing attack. One of the best in NFL history, the best in team history, and make an unexpected playoff berth. And then last year, he has the arm talent that backs it up. The change in his accuracy, completion percentage. Credit to Nick Sirianni, Shane Steichen, quarterback coach Brian Johnson, the new offensive coordinator. It's unbelievable. And now where you have, it reminds me really, not to say he's the same caliber of player, but you think to, I hate to see the comp, but LeBron James, where he was this unbelievable physical, athletic talent when he came in the league. And then once the mental traits of the game, the understanding that came with age came with that. And he's in Miami winning championships and playing like one of the best basketball players of all time, if not the best. It reminds me of the inverse a little bit with Hurts, where he has this understanding of the game. I remember people telling me 2 years ago he couldn't read the defense because that one game against Tampa Bay in the playoffs. Look, that's an elite defense, a team that had won the Super Bowl the year prior. That's going to happen to him. I'm glad. Fans should be glad they played that game and didn't just miss the playoffs. Getting smacked like that is great experience, and you saw what happened last year. He wasn't phased in the playoffs. He wasn't even phased in the Super Bowl. But he has that fumble. Guess what? He bounces back. He has, 3 rushing touchdowns. His 2-point conversion to tie things up at 35 in the fourth quarter was just gutsy as anything. You were talking about the Super Bowl. I literally just finished, within the last 45 minutes, the last episode of that Netflix quarterback documentary. Obviously, the last episode, the last half of it, is the Super Bowl, and people in Philadelphia don't really want to watch that one.
Nope.
I was putting off watching it a little bit, but I wanted to watch it this week because we're getting back in the camp. Mariota's featured, Hurts is featured, to see if there's anything noteworthy of that I could bring to the discussion table as we get on in the summer. But the guy is everything you'd want from the face of your franchise. He's a leader, and you have guys like Jason Kelce, who might go down as the most beloved athlete in the city's history, which is truly, truly saying something. But Hurts is still a leader.
You don't always stay in the Eagles' backfield because the running back position, they bring in a couple of new guys. They still have guys that have been there, like Kenneth Gainwell and Boston Scott. What do you think that rotation is going to look like? Have we gotten any indication of what that rotation is going to look like early on in camp?
First day of camp, Nick Sirianni said before practice, all guys are going to rotate in with the first team reps, and that's what we saw. Not only did DeAndre Swift, Rashad Penny, the 2 new additions, get first team reps, Kenny Gainwell did. I will say Kenny Gainwell got the most first team reps out of any running back on Wednesday. Boston Scott got some, and even Trey Sermon, who's been mostly inactive in his Eagles career, got some first team reps out there. So we're going to see I think that's what they want, though. They want a committee. They kind of got lucky with LaShawn for a few years, but their team, they're an organization that really wants to have that kind of setup, I think. And you have such a diverse array of skill sets. You have Rashad Penny, who's this power back who could still hit the hole and is a home run threat. DeAndre Swift can do a little bit of everything, is great out of the backfield. Boston Scott, even if he's only active for 2 games, make him active against the Giants both times, and he'll end up with 5 total touchdowns on the season.
Yep.
And then I think they are really high on Kenny Gainwell. I mean, you saw in the playoffs in the second half of the Giants game in the Super Bowl, he was playing more than Miles Sanders was, and he's at minimum going to be the guy who's out there on third down in those 2-minute situations, late game situations. But if he develops as a rusher, he might be out there, not just a third down back, but a first, second, and third down back at times. And you have the injuries with Penny and Swift, but the joke I've been making is, look, they're both going to miss 4 games. They just can't be the same 4 games at the same time. You got to spread out the injuries when it comes to the 2 injury-plagued guys. But I think they do have enough depth there that they'll be able to sustain that. And when you have the best offensive line in football, and a guy I think is a top 3 quarterback. Obviously, we have the Joe Burrow situation. I didn't even see it till I heard you guys talking about it. A guy I think is a top 3 quarterback and the best offensive line in the league. A lot of guys are going to look really good running behind them or playing alongside of them. They really do have talent there.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I'm seeing the video of him getting hurt. It does not look good.
They have the video?
Yeah, they got the video because it was a 7-on-7 or 11-on-11.
11-on-11. He's rolling out to his right, and he just comes up hobbling. Yeah. Look, it's non-contact. He's looking like it's his right leg, lower leg. Obviously, I think the thing you would be most terrified of there is an Achilles.
Yeah, ACL. Yeah, I mean, but again,
he had that his rookie year, right? He missed most of
I think that was it.
Right?
Yeah. Yep. Scary stuff, and it sucks because look, we all want to see the best of the best, and especially at that position. But
I want to watch Bengals Chiefs on New Year's Eve before I get going to my party. That's the match of the year. That's been the best rivalry, even though they're not divisional teams, the last couple of years in the NFL.
Yep, had that one circled as well. All right, Shamus Clancy joining us, PhillyVoice.com. Let's stay with the Birds here, and a great post, as I said, about the core 4. Really crazy to think about these guys and just their story and where they've been over the year, or how they've been looked at over the years. Of course, we're talking about Brandon Graham, Jason Kelsey, Fletcher Cox, and Lane Johnson. Let's have some fun, Shamus. I want you to rank them. And look, we debated it coming up a little bit later on Philly Debatable, where we just had fun. It's just gut. In your gut, I want you to rank them. But first and foremost, it's just crazy when you talk about all of these players. And Brandon Graham really comes to my mind, number one, because when he was drafted by Andy Reid, he had a great career at Michigan. I think he was the defensive player of the year before he was drafted. He just felt like he was undersized. Andy was playing. I did not see him like having this type of career or even lasting with the Birds. Let's put it that way.
The longevity. Yeah, that's surprising.
And now it's 2023 and he's still out there making plays. And you noticed the big difference when he was hurt, when he went down with that injury, 2 years ago, I believe it was. So it's just crazy with all these guys, their stories, and Fletcher Cox and Kelsey, what he did and what you just brought up in that conversation a little earlier here. He could go down as, the most beloved athlete in Philadelphia sports history. Lane has a little bit of a background, with some stuff that, PED use over the years, but just unbelievable to have these guys still here and playing at the high level that they are. But Shamus, please rank them according to you, 1 through 4. You can do it any way you want, just to your gut, my friend.
I'm going to give you 2 rankings. The most important one is who's the best in this list. That's what people really care about. Going 1, Lane Johnson. I don't know if Lane Johnson will get in the Hall of Fame. I think he missed out on some all-pro votes earlier in his career because he was a right tackle. And for the longest time, there was this thought that the right tackle was inferior to the left tackle who's, quintessentially blocking the quarterback's blind side and everything like that. But you need 2 tackles no matter what. And he has been, for the last 5, 6, 7 years, the best offensive tackle in the NFL. And really the last couple, maybe just the best offensive lineman overall. So I think he's been the best Eagle, the most talented, the most impactful. Number 2, Jason Kelsey. He's a guy I would expect to get in the Hall of Fame and has really been the best center of his entire generation. A guy, the longevity there and the way he came into the league so undersized, but you saw early in the chip era, his athleticism, his ability to get to the second, even third level was instrumental in the running game. And the fact that he's doing it still at age 34. And you watch him on his New Heights podcast and see it, and you can't imagine this guy chasing down dudes who run 4.4s and are 6'4", 260 pounds, but he takes care of business against them. Yeah. And then to a little bit lesser extent, Fletcher Cox was a first-team All-Pro. I think early in his career he was overshadowed because of how dominant Aaron Donald was as the league's premier defensive tackle, premier defensive player, maybe the best defensive player of all time, really, when you think about it. But I think he's a little bit later in his career. I think he's probably the least impactful now, but he still had 7 sacks last year. And look, he's going to be called on to have his biggest season since that All-Pro season in 2018 because they're missing Javon Hargrave. And you have 3 guys who I think are uber talented, but all inexperienced with Milton Williams, Jalen Carter, and Jordan Davis there. So he's going to need to have his best year in a few years. Number 4, I'd have Brandon Graham. the first 5 or 6 years of his career, he's a role player, and you don't really see it until Jim Schwartz comes in 2016. I think that's his first year. I think he makes second team All-Pro honors in 2016. Obviously, in 2017, he has the best play in Philadelphia sports history, and it just gets better and better and makes his first Pro Bowl team in 2020. And at age, 35, coming off almost an entire season missed with an ACL injury he suffered in week 2 of the 2021 season, has 11 sacks, his first double-digit sack season of his career. And you just think this guy's barely playing, but he's staying fresh because the way they cultivated this defensive line for basically my entire life following this team of having stacked and having a rotation there, it continues to pay off. But I will say, if we're going most beloved, number 1, Jason Kelce, as I said, he's going to go down in the Mike Schmidt, Dr. J, Allen Iverson territory, and might stand above all of them, depending on how this season goes. Number 2, I'd have Brandon Graham, because I think people adore the underdog story. People that adore Brandon Graham right now, 12 years ago, were probably screaming, writing on Facebook and MySpace that he's a complete bust. You look at him now; he's unbelievable. His grind, his mentality. He's always been the most personable person I've interviewed in my time covering the team. A guy who's aware of where he was early in his career and the way people talked about him and how unprecedented this longevity and the heights he's reached so late in his career is. Then I have Lane Johnson there, and then Fletcher Cox. No shit to those guys, but the first 2 guys just have such electric personalities that they have to be a little heavy.
Yeah.
No, I'm not going to ask you to rank this, but your favorite Oppenheimer performance.
I think Robert Downey Jr.
He was so
best
good.
supporting actor at the Oscars this year, or next year, I should say.
Do you think he's going to be competing with Gosling for that?
I think I wouldn't call it a conspiracy theory, but I think we're going to see and I love both films. I saw them both the first day. I saw a 7:30 showing of Barbie, and then an 11:10 p.m. IMAX showing of Oppenheimer. That's the only. They were so booked up. I didn't get home till 2:45 in the morning. I was driving back from KOP.
That's what I'm trying to go to the one in KOP. IMAX is still booked for like the week. Yeah. I can't get to see IMAX.
Oh my God.
I need to.
I'm writing my letterbox review at 4:00 in the morning. You're putting off going to bed, even though I have to wake up at 9:00 to do some editing. PhillyVoice.com. But I think you see a lot of nominations for these films. I think you're going to see Cillian Murphy deserved Best Oscar nomination, Best Actor. I don't know if he's going to win. Then I think you also see Margot Robbie nominated for Best Actress, which she more than likely could win. And I think the Academy and the film industry, they have the strikes going on right now, which I certainly support. But they want to reinvigorate the movie business, the film industry, as we've seen this pivot to streaming, pivot to television shows, and you see that right now with the writer's strike, the actors strike. But I think there's going to be an extra emphasis on these 2 movies trying to reestablish the culture of movies as a premier form of entertainment in our culture and society.
Damn, Shamus.
See, Sean, I'm not the only one.
Very
up 4 a.m. in the morning.
You guys are
writing
freaks.
letterbox reviews. I did it last night.
Love and respect,
I just watched the movie last night. 4 a.m. I'm doing a review.
I love and respect the passion you guys have for the film industry, but to go back to back with those 2 movies,
it's a great experience.
Yeah,
so what order did you go? So you went Barbie, Oppenheimer.
The rest of my life, it was such a unique experience. Look, people were like, "Oh my God, I'm going to see 2 movies in a day." I'm like, I work in a regular schedule. If I'm off on a Tuesday, I'll see 2 movies back to back at the Philadelphia Film Center. Pretty easy.
Yes.
Some random indie flick or some random, French film or whatever it might be. I just love the act of going to the movies, putting my phone on airplane mode for 2 hours. We all work in media. Our phones are our job. Social media is our job. So part of me just loves not looking at my phone for 2 hours and sucking myself into some narrative.
Oh my God!
This sounds like I'm talking to Jansen right now. Like this
feels like the Step Brothers moment where they do all like the cutting of the watermelon with like katanas and like, do we just become best friends? Yeah, that feels like that.
I mean, the bars are word for word.
I do want to ask, because the order of it. So you saw Barbie, then Oppenheimer. Was that the right order?
I liked it. Driving home in the pitch black on an empty 76 post Oppenheimer was like,
Yeah.
Man, the world's a really messed up place. Like, what does it even matter? What am I driving home for?
I felt the same way. I just said out loud, that was bleak as blank. Yeah, so I felt the same way. That drive home, I didn't even put the radio on.
Anti-spoiler person. The last line was so perfect.
It was great. It was great. The imagery was great. And that was the quietest car ride home I've ever had outside of a movie theater. Like when I just got out of a movie. It was such a quiet car ride.
Shamus, fantastic stuff.
We need to get Shamus on more.
Start to finish. Yeah. I mean,
you need a movie show. It sounds.
Yes, there we go. We need to make that happen.
2 to 4 a.m. on Saturday.
Perfect. Shamus will continue to read you over at thephillyvoice.com. Of course, following you on all things socials, Shamus_Clancy. It's his full name, really easy to find there. Hey, man, thanks for a couple minutes today. Definitely touch base down the road. Of course, keeping us up to date on all things birds and talking some movies as well. Always a pleasure, Shamus.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
My man, there he
is. Am I blushing?
Once again, Shamus Clancy. Yeah, that was word for word.
I got a movie crush on Shamus Clancy.
You guys are freaks, man. You guys can go see 2 movies. I don't care if it's Tuesday or Friday or Oppenheimer and Barbie, which I would like to see both movies, but to go back to back, there's no way I'm staying.
I wonder if he's ever done the back to back to back.
Have you?
Oh, have I done 4 movies in a day? I think my most is 4.
Dude.
I got at a movie theater, I think at noon, and I stayed there. I think the last showing I got was like 11.
Oh my God, man. I love and respect, as I said.
A lot of popcorn that day, though. No calorie counting for me. That was
get on Bumble.
All the butter
dude, get on Bumble or something.
No,
please,
Letterboxd. I will find the love of my life on Letterboxd. That's where I'm going to find it.
Go. All right, we'll keep the conversation rolling here.
Letterboxd romance. I can't wait.
We were definitely sounding the alarms in a major way as far as Joe Burrow is concerned. The latest report is a calf strain. So if that is the case, I think we could all take an exhale, a deep breath, and then just exhale.
And I think I might
sigh of relief here.
I mean, it did not look good,
dude. It was non-contact.
He went down,
pulled up.
Right.
No one's going to sit here and say that video looked okay.
So it's good. It's good to hear. Yeah, it seemed like Zach Taylor just said calf strain.
There was no video, or there was no audio in the video, but you saw the whole team just.
Oh yeah, everything stopped. Like it's not like the play continued a little bit. Everybody stopped immediately, and I think they kind of knew. Oh yeah, practice might not be.
You lose a quarterback like that. Again, there's probably 10 or 12 of them that are just going to send shockwaves, and those guys are the best of the best. But I'm not going to mention any other names because nobody wants to see anybody get hurt.